Well, after week 7 of the NFL, things are heating up.
Let's talk football.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast for sports, or everything on this channel. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we are going over my week 8 power rankings and predictions. So, last week, I went 13-1, and this week, I went 10-5. Not as good as I did last week, but hey, I'll take it. But man, last week was full of a bunch of surprises. The only ones I got wrong was my Seahawks beating the Falcons. I actually had the Falcons picked, but technically I did get the win, so I'm not going to put it as a point 0.5. But and then the other one I got wrong was the Texans beating the Packers. I did not expect that type of game from the Packers. Vikings I had against the Lions, and then also along with the Raiders I had over the Rams until Aiden O'Connell got hurt. And then the Chargers somehow losing to the Cardinals. I mean that's just a big surprise. But other than that, it's been really relatively unknown season because we don't know what each of these sides are going to do. But before we get started, if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Also, as a quick reminder, if we do hit 400 subscribers, which last time I checked we were only 4 away, if we hit 400, and every 100 after that, as I'm currently making this, the person that gets us to 400 will receive a $25 gift card of their choice. So be sure to like and subscribe. For now, let's get into the power rankings first and then the predictions. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to pull up the power rankings sections on my screen. Now, a lot has changed since last week. Last week I had the Vikings at number 1 and the Chiefs at number 2. Well, a lot has changed, and there's a new team at number 1. It's still not Kansas City, though. Just a heads up. For the first time on my list in my channel's history, I'm putting this team up here. The Detroit Lions. They have been so consistent of winning. And Jared Goff has more touchdown passes than he does incompletions. So that is a big key in my decision making. The Chiefs, they beat and why I have them at number 2 is sure they beat the Niners, but they were diminished, as they always are, because the Niners can't seem to get it done. Then at number 3 and further down, a lot of things have changed. The Ravens come in at number 3 as the Ravens absolutely obliterated the Buccaneers last week. But the Ravens, they are just looking on fire right now. They are just cooking, and I just see them cooking all the way to a division title. And then number 4, I'm not putting this team down too much. The Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to give them a big. I'm not going to overreact and say that they're one of the worst teams, but they are a really good team. They are a really good team, which they just had a down game, and we all have to lose a game at some point. And then number 5, not too behind of the Minnesota Vikings, is the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, after upsetting the Houston Texans and defeating them, they have jumped up. They were not on the list last week, but they are this week and jumped immediately up to number 5 after that huge win. Number 6, the team that the Packers beat, the Houston Texans. The Texans are really good. They are looking really good, but DJ Stroud having one of the worst career games. I'm going to give him a slim bit of a pass because it is the Packers. They are really good this year. Number 7, I have the Bills. Not going up too high, but I just think that if they beat a really good team, they could jump higher. And then number 8 is the Washington Commanders. Even though Jaden Daniels is hurt, it's still day to day. We're going to see on how that goes. They still look really good. Number 9, I have the Philadelphia Eagles making their first appearance on the list in quite some time after beating the New York Giants with Saquon Barkley, which Giant fans are still upset about that. but they are just looking really good. But then number 10, remaking their way onto the list after a huge win against the Jets, the black and yellow Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers are looking good, and I underestimated their decision. And Mike Tomlin is just a whole nother different coach because that is just insane on how he did that. But now to the honorable mentions. I have 6 teams on this list. Some of the ones were on here last week. The Bengals, Seahawks, Bears, Bucks, Falcons, and Broncos. The Bengals, I am very close to putting them in there. If they can get the win this week, they could potentially jump up in there. And then the Seahawks, they got a really good test this week against the Buffalo Bills, one of my top 10 teams in this division, in this section right now. And then the Bears going against Caleb Williams. I mean, not going against Caleb Williams because he's on their team. Against the Commanders, which I'll touch into later on. If they can beat them, they might jump into the top 10. And then Tampa Bay, after losing to the Ravens, they'll have a chance against the Falcons. But either one of these two could make it back into the top 10. And then lastly, the Broncos, they are not looking too good, but they are actually looking dangerous. If they can win next week, they might jump into my top 10. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the predictions. Kick us off with the Thursday night game, and this is going to be an ugly game if you're a Ram fan. You've got the Minnesota Vikings going on the road to SoFi, or is it really on the road? Because I think there's going to be a lot of Viking fans there to take on the Rams. Man, the Vikings, after losing a nail biter to the Detroit Lions, they were just looking good, but they couldn't put the staple in there and couldn't get the job done. But anyways, they're going to be taking on the Rams that beat the Raiders last week, which the Rams, they beat the Raiders, but the Vikings clearly ain't the Raiders. Which the Vikings, I just think they're overall the better team of this matchup. The Rams are still banged up. They could get Cooper Kupp back this week, so that is a huge key. So, in this case, I just think the Vikings are better in this situation. So I'm going to go with the Vikings because I think the Vikings are better than the Rams because the Rams are just still banged up. They're still waiting for Nakula to get back. Until then, I'm going with the Vikings to get the win over the Rams. And then, following that, you've got an AFC North showdown. You've got the Baltimore Ravens going on the road to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Ravens absolutely obliterating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, although Marlon Humphrey did go down hurt, so hopefully that brother's okay. But anyways, they are going to be taking on the Browns that lost Deshaun Watson for the season, and Brown fans were cheering for him when he was hurt.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
Which is unacceptable in my eyes. I touched on this a little earlier in the week, so I was very not happy about what I saw from the Brown fans. But the Ravens, I just think that the Browns are a bad team right now. But I'm going to go with the Ravens because this is pretty much an easy choice because the Browns are just a bad team. They are not good. Their quarterback situation is off in the roof. But I'm going to go with the Ravens to get the win over the Browns. And then you've got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Detroit Lions. The Lions, after beating the Vikings last week, they jump up to number 1 on this list. And then they're going to be taking on the Titans, which they are not looking too smooth right now. They got a lot of situations going on. They released Jamal Adams a few weeks ago. I do not want that brother back, by the way. The Titans are just in a heck hole right now. They are just looking bad. They just can't find a quarterback. The Lions are going to get the win in this situation because the Titans are a terrible team. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. And I just don't think they're going to get a win for the remainder of the season. So I'm going to go with the Lions to get the win over the Titans. And Then you got a rematch of the season opener and an AFC South showdown. You've got the Colts going on the road to take on the Texans. The Colts getting a very much needed win last week against the Miami Dolphins. And then Anthony Richardson did not look too smooth, but he's back, so that's a plus. They are going to be taking on the Texans. The Texans, they just lost last week to the Packers. Which I don't think any Texan fan wanted that on their schedule. But anyways, the Texans, they're at home this week. Last time they faced the Colts, they beat them 29-22 when they faced them. But in this case, I am going to go with the Texans. They are at home. They have the favor. And I just think they're the better team right now. So I'm going to go with the Texans to get the win over Colts. And then you've got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. The Jaguars, although they did get their second win of the season, it's not going to be an easy task this week against Green Bay. With Green Bay, after pulling a surprising upset against the Houston Texans, they are really good right now. And I think they're right now a top NFC contender. I'm going to go with the Packers to get the win over this one because the Jaguars, they're right now not looking too smooth. But I'm going with the Packers because they've been looking better. They have played better. So I'm going to go with the Packers to get the win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then following that, you've got the Arizona Cardinals going on the road to Miami to take on the Dolphins. The Cardinals upsetting the Los Angeles Chargers last week, which I did not expect that, by the way. I would have put you in the honorable mention, but it's getting really tight, especially this week. They're going to be going against Miami, which they are still without Tua. Rumors have it that Tua could return this game. I don't think that's going to happen because he needs to pass a certain protocol. In this case, for the first time this season, I'm going with the Cardinals because I think the Cardinals right now are better than the Miami Dolphins. They have been playing better. Kyler Murray ain't something to sneeze at. He's like a little mouse trying to run through a lot of cats on the defense, kind of like Tom and Jerry. But they are the Cardinals. I cannot ignore what the Cardinals are doing. In that case, I'm going to go with the Cardinals to get the win over the Dolphins. And then you got a tank battle between two of the AFC East teams. You've got the New York fraudulent Jets going on the road to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. The Jets. How did that Devontae Adams trade go? I mean, really, because you were just trash that game. You were literal garbage. And the Jets, they just can't win after firing Robert Saleh. So, and they're going to be taking on the Patriots that have been looking terrible after their loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. But I'm going to go with the Jets in this one because they have beaten the Patriots a variety of times now. 3 straight times would be this time. But I'm going to go with the Jets to get the win over the Patriots. And Jets, you either need to show up or you need to shut up. And then you got an NFC South showdown and rematch from a few Thursday nights ago. You've got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs. The Falcons, last time they faced the Buccaneers, they had a dogfight and won in overtime due to the receiver Hodge. I don't know his first name, but the Falcons, they were looking good. Lost last week to my Seattle Seahawks, which the Bucs, they just got obliterated by the Ravens. Both these teams getting obliterated by birds. That's not a big surprise. But anyways, in this one, this is a bit of a draw of a stick. But I'm gonna go with the Bucks because I think they could split the series because of what the Seahawks did to their offensive line last week. The Buccaneers are looking really good. I'm gonna go with the Bucks to get the win over the Atlanta Falcons. And then you got a potential battle of the number 1 and 2 pick if Jaden Daniels is healthy. You've got Caleb Williams and the Bears going on the road to the nation's capital to take on the Commanders. The Bears sitting well on their bye week this week, but not enjoying it that much because both the Packers and Lions won. So now they have a bit of ways to catch up in the NFC North race. But they are going to be facing their biggest challenge yet if Jaden Daniels is starting in the Commanders. The Commanders have been looking really, really good. And are, right now, they are looking better than last year's Texans. And in this case, I'm going to rely. Oh my gosh. I am so confused on who to pick this week because of that injury to Jaden Daniels. I did not expect that. I'm going to rely on the health. I believe Jaden Daniels will return this game. I'm going to solely rely on that. I have to go with the Commanders in this one. And even if Jaden Daniels is out, Marcus Mariota is a reliable backup QB. So I am going to go with the Commanders to get the win over the Bears. And then you got the New Orleans Saints going on the road to SoFi once again to take on the Chargers. The Saints, wondering where that team from week 1 and 2 went.
It's quiet. Too quiet. Where is everybody?
Because there has been non-existent since then. They have just looked awful. Their injuries are banging up. They are just not looking good. Spencer Rattler, not too smooth on the game against the Donkeys. They are just not looking too good. But the Chargers, after surprisingly losing to the Arizona Cardinals, that is a big thing. I did not expect that. But anyways, in this case, I'm going to go with the Chargers in this one. I just think Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers are the better team in this situation because the Saints are banged up. They don't have any receivers. But I'm going to go with the Chargers to get the win over New Orleans Saints. And then you have the statement game of the week. You have the Buffalo Bills going on the road to Seattle to take on the Seattle mother loving Seahawks. The Bills beating the Tennessee Titans after having a slow start to this game. Man, it was a big surprise on how bad they were doing at first, but then they got into a groove. They are going to be taking on my Seattle Seahawks that got the win last week against the Atlanta Falcons, which are heavily stacked on their offensive side. But the defense of Seattle was showing up. They were forcing turnovers and primarily the fumble that returned for a touchdown. Also, as I'm currently in the process of editing this video, Ernest Jones has just been traded to my Seattle Seahawks in exchange for the Tennessee Titans getting Jerome Baker and a 4th-round pick. And man, was that very much needed. I mean, Jerome Baker, he's been good, but he's not really been doing that much. So Ernest Jones, he's very familiar with the NFC West. He played a couple years with the Rams. And the Seahawks, watch out because Ernest Jones is a big piece. Since their big three is back, they have changed. Their big seven are back, except for Nwosu. But that guy's pretty much like Jamal Adams. You can't rely on him to stay healthy. But this week is a really big statement game for the Seattle Seahawks. And I've been going back and forth between on who I'm going to pick because I know this is going to be a statement game. But you know what? I think the health was the primary issue because if we look back at week 3, Byron Murphy went down. He's back. and they've been on a stroll since he returned. In that case, I'm going with the Seahawks to get the win because I think that the home field advantage is going to favor them. I believe that the Bills are going to struggle with that whole road environment, especially since it is Josh Allen's first game in Seattle. I believe the Seahawks have a for real chance to get the win, and I'm going with it because I believe that the Seahawks can get the win because they are looking strong. Their offense is cooking. They did not throw as many times, and I'm going to go with the Seahawks to get the win over the Bills. And if you want to say I'm delusional, part of you might say I'm right. And then you've got the Philadelphia Eagles going on the road to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Eagles. What a welcome back to Saquon back in New York. Because he was going off. But man, the Eagles just looked really good. Their run game was really good. Then again, it is the Giants. But they are going to be taking on the Bengals this week, which the Bengals, they are on a hot streak. They have won 2 straight, and they are right now looking really hot. And in this case, I am going to go with the Bengals on this one. Some Eagle fans might disagree, but the Eagles, their defense has not been looking too great because they have not played relatively good opponents. They have whenever they face a really good opponent, they seem to diminish. So in this case, I'm going with the Bengals to get the win over the Eagles because from here until the playoffs, they pretty much need it. And then you've got the Carolina Panthers going to Denver to take on the Broncos. The Panthers getting destroyed pretty much by the Commanders, even though Jane Daniel did go out. Andy Dalton experiment is just not working. Bryce Young is a bust, and it's not looking good in Carolina. And I hate to say this because Carolina is just going through a lot right now, and I just don't think it's going to get any better from here because they're playing the Denver Broncos in Denver in the Mile High City. It is a hard environment to play in. I'm going to go with the Broncos to get the win because the Panthers, they're still one of the worst teams in the National Football League. So I'm going to go with the Broncos to get the win over the Panthers. And then, for the first time this season, you've got an AFC West showdown between the red and black. You've got the Kansas City Chiefs that are still undefeated and the only undefeated team remaining going on the road to Viva Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Chiefs and Raiders. These two sides have been hated rivals since the beginning. They have been hated rivals. And the Chiefs beating the 49ers last week, and heck, who wouldn't expect that because the Niners can't seem to defeat the Chiefs. And the Raiders, they are coming off of a huge loss to the Los Angeles Rams, but they also lost Aiden O'Connell, which now they recently went out there and traded for former Cardinals backup and former QB in Atlanta in Desmond Ritter. So that is not going to be a good situation. I'm going with the Chiefs again because from here until they lose, I'm going with the Chiefs because no one is betting against the Chiefs after what they did last year. And I just think that regardless of their injuries, I just think that they are going to get the win regardless of the circumstance because it's Mahomes. He can do anything. And by the way, Mahomes absolutely trucked Mustafa. I mean, dang, that was a shot. I mean, that was a hard hit. And my goodness, Mahomes, that was a good run, I have to say. But other than that, I'm going with the Chiefs to get the win over the Raiders. Also, as I was in the process of editing this, breaking news coming out of Kansas City as the Chiefs have traded for former Tennessee Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins and adds another dangerous receiver to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not the one I was expecting. I was curious about the Hunter Renfro situation, but again, the Chiefs are just trying to find a way to three-peat, and now with this new addition of a wide receiver, I think they might just do that. And then Sunday night, you've got a rivalry dating back to the 80s. You've got the Cowboys going on the road to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The Cowboys resting on their bye week this week, but it's not like anything is going to change because it has been their way this season. The defense has not been looking good. Their run game is still not kicking. The run defense is suspect. They can't stop the cold, which is the run. They cannot get their own run going, which they are just not looking good. And they should have gone out there and tried to get Derrick Henry, but Jerry Jones didn't even think about it. So that was just a bad mistake by Jerry Jones, and I think that will come back to bite him. Also, what he recently said, I'm not going to play it, but he said that he gave an explanation on that radio show 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, Texas. From what I heard, I watched First Take this morning because I'm a First Take fan. It was said that he was explaining on why he didn't go after him. I mean, come on, just Jerry, you either show up or shut up because this brother, the Cowboy fans know that he is not the solution. And pretty much Jared Jones needs to shut the heck up because anything he says coming out of his mouth is not going to make the Cowboy fans feel any better. But the Niners, after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs again,
Starscream, your mockery of a reign is over.
they are not looking good. Their Brandon Ayuk is now out for the season, which, by the way, don't know if you know already, but you paid the wrong receiver. But this is not going to be a pretty game. I do expect it to be an ugly game, other than in the past, which it could likely be from like what it was in the past games, like it was a blowout. But in this case, both teams are 3-4. Cowboys are 3-3. Niners are 3-4. Both teams are around the 500 marker. I am gonna go with the Niners though because they have had the number against the Cowboys, and I root with them anytime they do face the Cowboys. Only time I root for them. So in that case, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I mean, not the Cowboys, the Niners to get the win over the Dallas Cowboys. And last but not least, you've got a Monday night showdown between two historical franchises. You've got the New York Giants.
All hail the New York Giants.
Going on the road to Pittsburgh, the Steel City, to take on the Steelers. Man, this has been looking like an ugly game. This is going to be an ugly game because the Giants, after just getting obliterated and only getting 3 touchdowns, only 3 points, it is not looking good for the Giants. And I think they should start Drew Lock this game because Daniel Jones is just not that guy. You either need to put him in or just tank because it's not looking good for you. They are going to be taking on the Steelers. That shocked everyone when Russell Wilson went in, which a lot of Steelers fans did not like that at first.
Tomlin! You imbecile!
But then after that, then opinions started to change. And mine certainly did. Because I thought it was a bad move. I had the Steelers picked last week. And they just, time and time again, Tomlin always finds a way. Every single freaking year, I tell you, it's Mike Tomlin. He can always find a way to get it done, regardless of the quarterback.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's incredible. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
But Russell Wilson at the first glance did not look too good, but then he kind of did go off. But man, it is going to be an ugly game. And the Steelers are known for winning those ugly games. The defense of the Giants has been looking really good, especially with Dexter Lawrence. Not allowed to say his nickname because this is a family-friendly channel. But this Giants defense is going to I believe, potentially cause the Steelers offense some issues. Because Russell Wilson, he has been reliable in the pass game. But what are you going to do when you have Dexter Lawrence coming at you and Brian Burns and then also long Kayvon Thibodeau that should be back this week? They are going to be dangerous. They're going to try to pressure him. But as Mike Tomlin always does, I'm going with the Steelers because they always find a way. They always seem to find a way, which I've been doing better at my Steeler picks. So I'm going to go with the Steelers to get the win over the New York Giants. And the Giants, you need to really change up your quarterbacks. Let me know in the comments what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who do you guys think will win each of their matchups? Let me know who and why in the comment section below. And also, what did you think about my power rankings? Do you agree with my power rankings? Let me know in the comments. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao for now.